in resilience. We have outreaches that focus on education and building resilience and sustainability. We also have exhibits here that focus on it as well. So we are setting ourselves apart as a leader to spark action.
You must come to the table with a positive mindset about the future and be willing to make the changes that we need to make together. It's worth it. Our kids will come back, they'll be our neighbors, they'll run our businesses. Let's be the beacon of what's possible when business and science and philanthropy come together to change the world.
Support resilience by supporting the Museum of Discovery and Science.
There are legends of the deep. Ancient and elusive, they are the keepers of balance in our oceans. Hammer, angel, great white, tiger, manta. Refined over millions of years, their powers are unique. They are super sharks. Together, they ensure the stability of our world's life support. The oceans. Our oceans need super sharks. We need them, and they need our help. Assemble the super sharks and help them save our seas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Save Our Seas Foundation Distinguished Speaker Series. We're so happy to have you. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. Thanks for being here.
Sharks and rays. They are often dismissed as monsters of the sea. But these majestic, enigmatic creatures are actually essential wardens of our marine environment. Found in every ocean across the world, they play a fundamental role in ensuring balance and stability in our oceans. Sadly, this role is jeopardized by overfishing and habitat loss. Around 3 billion people rely on fish as their primary source of protein. Ongoing declines in shark populations could have devastating and unpredictable impacts on marine food webs, and even our own food supply. The plight of sharks and rays was the spark for the Save Our Seas Foundation, founded over 15 years ago. Through the funding and support of research, conservation, and education initiatives, we are dedicated to safeguarding the future of sharks and rays. Today we have 3 centers based in Seychelles, South Africa, and the USA. Since 2003, we have funded over 300 projects on over 60 species in over 50 countries. We have also partnered long-term with several projects, including the Shark Spotters in South Africa, the Shark Lab in the Bahamas, and the Manta Trust. We're passionate about our mission: protect the future of sharks and rays and our oceans for generations to come. We can, and will make a difference. The Save Our Seas Foundation.
I used to actually be terrified in any water where I couldn't see the bottom. Tales of monsters lurking in the deep. What are these enigmatic, crazy creatures? The first recognizable ancestors of sharks existed before trees, whereas now they could be facing collapse in a single generation. I actually think it's very hard to know just how much you love something until you lose it. Grief is the price we pay for love. The thing that drove me on this path was a pure passion for the animals themselves. I didn't start out wanting to save them because I didn't know that they needed saving or help. I realized that if we want to help save sharks, we need to make sure they have safe places to live in.
Sharks and rays, they are ancient, enigmatic, misunderstood, and essential to our oceans. But these important animals are under immense pressure. As the Save Our Seas Foundation, we're here to help. Through supporting research, conservation, and education, we work to ensure a future for sharks and rays. The Save Our Seas Foundation. Together, we can make a difference.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Save Our Seas Foundation Distinguished Speaker Series. We're so happy to have you all here tonight. My name is Lance. I am the Director of Environmental Sustainability, coming to you from the Museum of Discovery and Science here in sunny South Florida. We're so happy to have you all here tonight to learn all about thresher sharks from our researcher who we're highlighting tonight, Rafid Shidqi. Will be telling us all about these amazing, wonderful, unique sharks. They happen to be my favorite. And all the wonderful things that he's doing to research them. Thank you to the Save Our Seas Foundation for making this possible. We really appreciate their support. If you ever find yourself in South Florida, come by, stop by the museum. This is our wonderful museum. Our mission is to connect people to inspiring science. And I think we're going to do that tonight with our researcher and all the amazing things that they're going to be talking to you about. Our 4 strategic action pillars at MODS, everything that we do is guided by physical science education, early childhood education, health and wellness education, and environmental sustainability. That's where I come in, and that's where tonight's speaker series comes in. So yeah, if you find yourself in Fort Lauderdale, come on by, see what we have. Tonight, like I said, we're joined by amazing researcher. Rafid is an early career conservationist from the city of South Tangerang in Indonesia. He is a PhD student at Duke University, Nicholas School of Environment, focusing on marine science and conservation. Rafid was a fellow at the University of Oxford's Interdisciplinary Centre for Conservation Science in Oxford, UK, and the winner of the Marsh Award for Early Career Conservation in 2021. Congratulations. After graduating with a bachelor's degree, he moved to the Coral Triangle region of Indonesia, an epicenter of marine biodiversity. There, his passion for sharks and rays was nurtured by volunteer work in Lamakara, East Nusa Tenggara, where most manta rays in the world are actually threatened. Rafid has been leading Thresher Shark Indonesia, which is an initiative to transition communities from traditional shark hunting to sustainable alternative livelihoods using research, stakeholder engagement, and education. That sounds like a wonderful project to be a part of, and a very holistic project as well. So Rafid, welcome tonight. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you, Lance. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining and making the time. So I guess this is my cue to start presenting, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, while you're pulling up your slides, I'll give the audience some. So we're gonna, Rafid's gonna talk all about his project, and he has some cool things about his research. We'll have time for question and answer as well. We'll have a dedicated Q&A session at kind of the end of tonight's presentation. But if you have any questions as you're listening, if something piques your interest, please go ahead and ask it. Type it into the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat for you guys. So if you have a really amazing question right there and then, I'll chime in and ask it on your behalf. Yeah, so don't be shy. Ask questions. I'll be asking questions because, like I said, threshers are my favorite shark since I was, I don't know, the first thing I can think about sharks, and I learned about thresher sharks probably at like 6 years old or something. I learned about thresher sharks, and has been mesmerized ever since. They're so beautiful and like just unique. They're such cool animals.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for tonight.
Okay. Yeah, Lance, thanks so much. Yeah, I think hopefully I can start now, and then everybody doesn't have any issue seeing my screen. So thank you for Museum of Discovery and Science in Fort Lauderdale for having me. I'm joining from North Carolina in Durham. As Lance mentioned, I am the founder of Thresher Shark Indonesia, which is a youth-led nonprofit based in Indonesia, in Alor Island, where communities there have been hunting this amazing animal, unfortunately. So we are finding a solution on how first we can protect the sharks, but also we can protect the livelihoods and economic well-being of the local communities there. So this is the photo that was taken in 2013 by Sean Henrich. This is taken in Alor after one of the attempts to release the sharks after they're being caught by the local shark fishermen there. And yeah, thanks also for Save Our Seas Foundations for supporting the continuity of this research. All right, so I guess I can start. So I'm not really sure how everybody's familiar with this amazing animal. So like Lance mentioned, they are very, very distinct. So if you've been following the news about sharks, they are the only one that has this long tail. So they call the Thresher sharks. There are 3 species in the world, only 3. And in Indonesia, they are actually called the mouse sharks, or hiu tikus. So hiu is shark, tikus is mouse. So this is actually the name that the Indonesian Ministry of Marine Affairs gave to name them, because first they have a very, pointy snout, and then a big eye, and then long tail, and then very small mouth and small teeth. So I think that's kind of like resembling, the mouse, which kind of makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of like one of the unique naming system that we have locally in Indonesia. And I don't know if I usually use this kind of like a trivial question. So there are 3 species. Maybe anybody would like to kind of like drop in a chat, which one, like this one, the gray one, what's the name, and then the small one, and then the kind of like bluish Thresher sharks. I don't know if anybody have any guesses.
I can guess. Well.
You can. Okay.
Now that you've put us on the spot, I'm blanking on all 3 species. But big eye thresher is one of them, right? Is there a pelagic thresher? No.
Yes, there is a pelagic thresher. And then the other one,
blanking on the last one.
it's actually the one that is closest to Florida and also the US. Yeah, okay, let me just reveal this, right? So there are 3 species of thresher sharks. The first one, like you mentioned, is the big eye thresher shark. It's quite distinct, so they have the biggest eye of all of them, even though like 3 of them actually have quite big eyes. And the one aspect that makes them distinct is that they have the bump on the head. So this kind of like a muscle system. I will explain later about what's this function, but generally they have this bump to kind of like regulate the change of temperature in the ocean because they migrate quite significantly across different depth and also places. And the second one, we have the pelagic, which is the smallest among the 3. So their total length from the snout until the tip of the tail, it's reached up to 3.3 meters. Sorry, I didn't convert into the feet measurement system in the US, but this is kind of like the general average length of this species. And lastly, we have the common thresher shark, which is the Alopias vulpinus. So Alopias is the genus name, and Pelagicus vulpinus and Superciliosus is the species name. So this is actually the one that is commonly found in the US waters, like in New York, and I think there are some reports in Rhode Island, and they are the biggest among the 3. So they could reach 5.7 meters in the total length from this and this. So they actually, the color is quite yellow, bluish. The big eye actually has more kind of like darker colors, like gray, and the pelagic is more kind of like in the lighter tone. And the big eye actually called as the monkey shark by the Indonesian government and us in Indonesia because they look, they share kind of like similar color with the monkey. Yeah, so and with the long tail as well.
So just to help our audience a little bit, so 5.7 meters. Using metric system is great. We need to all be practiced in the metric system. But for those that's foreign language to you, 15, 16, 17 feet, where what a third of that is caudal fin tail, right?
That's right. So if you cut half an out, so the tail length is almost the same as the body length.
Oh, so it's almost half, right?
Yeah. So the total length is from the snout until the tip of the tail. So what we call in the shark science, usually you measure from here to here is called the fork length. And from here and here is the caudal length. And almost half of them, half of the tail is actually, the same as the main body.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's amazing.
Which one was the mouse shark? If you have a monkey shark, you have a mouse shark.
Yeah, the mouse shark is the pelagic.
The pelagic. Okay.
Yes, because in Indonesia we only have 2 of them. The pelagic and also the big eye, but we don't have the common thresher, which only commonly found in the subtropical waters. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you for participating. Okay. Yeah. I guess that we can then from the 3 we can kind of like differentiate in a nutshell how we can tell them apart, right? So first one is the body size. So the common thresher, they're the biggest. And then the second is the geographic distribution. So the common, they could be found in the Atlantic and also the Pacific, while for the pelagic and also the big eye, they could be found in the subtropical. But some of the superciliosis also could be found in the European waters, which is also share kind of like a colder waters compared to the tropics. And lastly is the color. So the common, they have kind of like a bluish gray color, and then the big eye, they're more kind of like darker gray, and then the pelagic is more on the lighter gray color. So there's just kind of like the small aspects. If you maybe, I don't know, if you find some sharks stranded in the coast of Florida, maybe you can actually find easily distinguish which species that you could be potentially encountered there. All right, so these are the time for sad facts about thresher sharks. sadly, they are endangered. So I'm only focused on the pelagic thresher shark since this is one of the species that I've been working on in Indonesia. So they're categorized as endangered. Last year in 2019, before COVID, they actually categorized as vulnerable, meaning that if we don't initiate any conservation interventions for them, they will soon, disappear from the ocean. This is true for the other two species, the big eye and also the common as well. The reason why they are being endangered is that, especially in Indonesia, so they make up for about 50% as bycatch in tuna fisheries. So if you could imagine a tuna vessel with capacity of 1,000 tons, and then they catch 1,000 tons of fish, 50% of them, which is 500 tons of them, comprise of thresher sharks. So it's a huge issue with bycatch. First is because the sharks actually associated with tuna, so they catch upon the same prey like small scads, small pelagic species. So unfortunately, when the big tuna vessel come into the school of tuna, they also could be found so many thresher sharks in that schools. And it is estimated that the population decline has reached more than 90%. So it's still ongoing because the fishing is still continue. And they've already regulated within the CITES, which is an international body that regulate international trading of these species. They've already included within the Appendix 2, meaning that the exports actually is strict. You cannot easily transport their meat or body parts of the sharks, but they're still allowed to be exported with specific permits. So for example, if it's for research or for other kind of like legitimate purposes, because you have to kind of present the proof that you are allowed to export body parts of the pelagic thresher sharks. So this information is based on the latest information Indonesian Ministry of Marine Affairs. They're doing kind of like national assessment of this species. So yeah, sadly, there's no
That's a large bycatch number. That's surprising, I guess I should say.
It is. Yeah.
So all those sharks that they catch, they just throw back, right? They don't keep them for anything.
Yes, for industrial tuna, sadly, they don't have that much value. So they can throw it away to the oceans, or they actually Indonesian government has regulations that if the sharks become the bycatch, the fishing vessel has to land them on the port and then give reports how many sharks they landed, where the locations and stuff like that. So it's kind of like for monitoring purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not nationally protected, so that's why the population decline is still happening right now in the country. That's why what we are trying to do is to at least create an interventions how we can prevent further declines of the species, because it's getting rarer for them to be encountered in the wild because of this decline. Yeah. Right. So, so the thresher sharks, based on their distribution, they are circumglobal, just like the manta ray and also the whale shark. The common threshers, like I mentioned earlier, they could be found in the subtropics, like in the waters of the US, and also some part of Europe and the UK. And big eye and pelagic threshers can be found in the Indo-Pacific region. But big eye also could be found in some of the European waters, because some of the academic papers have shown that there are some landings of big eye thresher sharks as well. So the big eye, kind of like share the similar distribution with the common threshers and also pelagic threshers. Yeah, so these are the blue shades actually represent the distributions of many of these species. All right, so if we see from the vertical distribution of the thresher sharks, they could be found around 72 until 135 kilometers. Again, it's not in miles offshore, but mostly Lance is trying to kind of like calculate maybe in miles. And they consider the oceanic species because they are rarely found in the coastal waters. And if you see, based on the vertical distribution, so we have the epipelagic, mesopelagic, bathypelagic, abyssal pelagic, and adelpelagic based on the stratifications of depth. The treasure sharks could be found from the depth between 200 until 1,000 meters. So they are found in the epipelagic and also mesopelagic waters, just like the hammerheads, some tuna, and also some baleen whales. They could be found in the surface. I think we've seen reports or like videos of treasure shark jumping out of the water. They're like breached, just like the manta ray. So they could still be found on the kind of like a surface waters. And again, this is one of the kind of interesting facts. So this is generally on all of the species of treasure sharks that could be found around this depth. And if we see again on the oceanographic perspective, I don't know if you all familiar, this is probably kind of like a boring graph, but there is some folks who study marine science or like oceanography probably familiar with this. So we have this, the division of temperature, and down we have the depth in meters. So if you can see that, if we go deeper and deeper in the ocean, in the surface, we will have warmer waters, and then in the deeper waters, we have colder waters. So this is what we call as the thermocline layer, where the rate of depth also corresponds with the reducing temperature. And the treasure sharks share this kind of like unique movement between the shallower and also the deeper waters. This is the feature that I mentioned earlier about the big-eyed treasure sharks. They have a behavior, what we call as the DL vertical migration. So they move between the deeper and shallower waters between day and nights. So they migrate, during the day, they dive quite deep, from 200 until 550 meters, and the temperature is 6 to 11 degrees Celsius. And during the night, they move to a shallower waters, which is 50 degrees, which more significant temperature, so 15 until 26 degrees Celsius. So these kind of like, deal migration behavior is for food. So during the night, let me just show it again in here. Like you can see, the big-eyed treasure shark, they have a very, very big eyes. And these eyes have been perfected to see in a very low light condition. So during the night, they can see better, and it makes them better to hunt as well in the shallow habitats. So they hunt for squids, they hunt for small scads, and also some smaller, anchovies to forage during the night. So this, and based on our research as well with the pelagic treasure shark that I will mention later in the slides, the pelagic also share the same kind of behavior. So they do deal vertical migrations between night and day. Although we're not really sure yet why they do this. It could be also the same kind of motivations, to find for foods or to find for better habitats for them, or like fleeing from, I don't know, bigger sharks or something like that. There's still a big mystery that the science is kind of like a cool opportunity for us to know more about them. And the next thing is about why, because like you see, right? They can change between warm and cold. This also then impacting on how their body reacts, right? So how their evolutionary have been adapted with these constant changes of depth and also temperature. And if you learn on the physiological aspects of it, they are actually endothermic fish species, meaning that they have the ability to regulate the body temperature. Not all fish have this kind of feature, because some fish have somewhat, shallower tolerance between temperature and depth. But for the treasure sharks, they have this structure called the rete or red muscles. So if you happen to see like some dead treasure sharks, and then you cut the meat, they have this you know, red muscle tissues surrounding their muscles. So this is actually the, you know, the structure that helps them regulate the temperature when moving across the ferrous temperatures and depth. And other species like tuna and also mako sharks have the same, you know, physiological structure. It's because also tuna and mako sharks, you know, they share kind of like similar habitat like the thresher sharks.
Yeah, like a great white has a
Yes.
similar. Yeah, so
yeah, I think great
and
whites
that gives them
have
like you showed the map of the range. You know, their range extends all the way up into Canada and North America, and as far south as South America and
Yeah.
the Patagonia cold waters down there. The water's 50, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It's cold. They
Yes,
can handle it,
is.
right? That's really cool.
Yeah.
Warm-blooded. When you think about an endothermic, or another warm-blooded fish, it's
Yeah.
quite unique. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I think horizontally they can move, like, you know, even the big eye, they can move between, I don't know, waters in the US and then move to Canada, which can be a bit more cold, you know, colder, but also in the depth, because they undergone this kind of like constant change in temperature as well. So I think, yeah, they are very unique and have been perfected their way of life throughout the centuries. And regarding the maturity, the thresher sharks, they can mature in 9 years for female, and in 7 years for male. So if you can see, this is the baby. I think this is not fully developed because so far what we have seen in Indonesia, we found some pregnant sharks with the babies that have been fully developed. They range 1.5 until 2 meters. So they are quite big actually. So once they release from the mother, they can already be independent and look for food. And they could live up to 50 years based on the available catch records. But usually, unfortunately, they died at the age of 10 to 20 years because of the catch or fisheries. So the way how we can see the age is based on the paper available on the Google Scholars. They actually use, because they are vertebrate, right? We use the vertebrae to measure the circle of year. So just like the tree, so if you can see the cambium of the tree, one circle of the cambium represent the year the tree has lived. It's the same with the vertebrate animals. Just like when we want to see the age of like manta ray or like other shark species, and the research shown that 50 years is one of the oldest sample that they have measured. And they give birth to 2 until 4 pups with around 9 months of gestation period, like human. And the babies are cannibals. So they usually have a couple of, eggs. So they're actually ovoviviparous. They have eggs inside the womb, and then the eggs will develop inside. And once it's ready to be released, they will give birth. And within the womb, during the development stage, the babies will consume each other. So they will, 8 to 10 semi-developed eggs, they will kind of like fight within the womb of the mother, and then only 2 will survive and then release when it's come for the release. So this pretty, horrifying
gruesome,
nature.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's a pretty common thing with many different species. Tiger shark do that too, right?
Yes.
There's a bunch of species that
Bull sharks
do that.
also,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So they're
born
kind of
predators,
similar.
That's what they do.
That's true. Yes, that's just part of human nature.
Shark nature.
Yes, shark nature. And yeah, I think apart from the ecology and biological aspects, we've seen sometimes like a lot of people asking me, like, especially when I'm working with thresher sharks, like, why, like, do you care about thresher sharks, right? I think it's really hard for conservationists sometimes to justify unless people understand the real value of it, and then people have various different perspectives. First, they are endangered. they're in trouble, so we need them to save them. And this is more kind of like makes sense for government or like industries, like they actually beneficial for the economy, right? Yes, you can protect them for the ecosystem because sharks generally they're apex predator, and then once they disappear from the oceans, there will be kind of like ecological consequences. But that's not make sense for the government sometimes. Like, okay, so who cares? And also industries like, why do you care so much about the sharks? Or even people who live in the city sometimes like, why should I care about the sharks, right? And sometimes, you know, they start to be motivated when they see there's some economic benefits to it. So one of the example of a very common treasure shark focused tourism is actually in Malapascua, not in Indonesia. It's in the Philippines. We're a neighbor. So this is the island of Borneo, Indonesia, and the Philippines. We kind of like share some of the ocean part, and then this little tip on the island of Cebu, called is the Batayan district. It's one of the world's famous diving spot for pelagic treasure sharks. So pelagic treasure sharks has been one of the most important natural resources for the people there. Because the tourism has provided a lot of economic benefits, including because the area is also suffer from many different natural disasters like hurricanes. And the tourism actually make people more resilient because people keep coming to the island, dive with the sharks, utilize, you know, the tourism opportunities there, and it make people more resilient to rebuild the island after they get struck by horrible hurricanes and also other natural disasters. And one of the important sites called Monat Shoal. So it's one of the dive sites where you can see treasure sharks and the cleaning station. So if you're familiar with the term cleaning station is actually, so it's a kind of like a seamount. There are some small fish. The sharks come in, and then the small fish will eat the parasites from the body of the sharks, just like manta rays. So it's like one of the part of the life history of the sharks because they are frequently and almost predictable. And this predictability makes people, you know, easy to see them in the wild. So for example, in the Philippines, they usually gather there around early morning from 4 to 5 a.m. So people really wake up early, go to the ocean and dive, wait until the sunrise. And the shark will eventually come to the cleaning stations to get clean, or, you know, kind of like a sauna or spa. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why Monat Shoal is very, very famous, because it has been well known in the world about this behavior. And we are actually seeking this same information in Indonesia, and whether the cleaning stations actually exist that can make people more motivated to, you know, to see them, and also for the government and also other industries to protect them in the wild. So the economic benefits from treasure shark focused tourism in Malapascua in the Philippines, they could reach up to 11 million per year. So it's a huge, huge economic opportunities for such a small island. So the tourism opportunities is not only from the sharks, it's for the boats, and also for the, you know, for the homestays and accommodations, and also for like snacks, souvenirs, and other types of, you know, integrated services from tourism. So one single sharks could make a huge difference for the entire community of people. So I think that's what makes them very, very special in terms of, you know, providing not only the ecosystem benefits, but also the economic benefits for the community. Unfortunately, this is the sad part. Lance already told me, like, please don't provide lots of dead sharks. But this is just kind of like a bitter fact. Yeah, that's the reality. So globally, their populations are already in decline because of the bycatch, like I mentioned, and also targeted fisheries. So this is the photo in one of the local communities that I've been working with in Indonesia. And this also happened in, I think, in Bali. So I think one of the alarming thing is that, like, because they have such a, you know, a long tail, it's one of the unique feature, but unfortunately, it's also one of the shortfall, because this tail is actually entangled a lot in the nets. and the fishing lines. So, it makes them actually more vulnerable to any kind of like fishing gears. So as you can see, there's just lots of sharks being hunted down, either as bycatch or even targeted fisheries. So this is just a short video about a little. This is and if I should show this a little bit horrifying. Should I show this, Lance?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. This just to give a sense of the issues that we have been dealing with in Indonesia. So this video was produced for the COP, actually used as a material for push conservation for them.
This is in Indonesia, right?
Yes, this is in the community that I'm working. Yeah, so you can see. So they get entangled either on the tail or some of the fins. And the unique thing about this is that once the shark's being cut down, they can actually found 2 baby sharks. And then the kids will go to the shore and they give a little massage, and then the sharks will come back to life. So this video was made by Sean Henrich, one of our supporters in the projects as well. And the video was used to push the conservation of treasure sharks globally under the CITES in 2013 to make sure that they receive global attention, and also could push, kind of like more binding resolution to protect them from further decline. So you can see that in the video that, the baby sharks, the children, so once the fishermen, landed the sharks and then they caught the womb of the sharks, they could find 2 baby sharks inside. And once fully developed, the children will just gather around the beach and then cheering and then, give a little massage to the baby sharks. And then the baby sharks will come back to life and then they will release them. And we've seen, I think this is one of the motivations of why we start the works as well. So originally the work takes place in the island of Alor. So Indonesia is a big island country. So we have 17,504 islands from here to here. So we have lots of islands, and in the small parts of here in the southern part near Australia, named Alor Island in East Nusa Tenggara, people have been hunting sharks for 50 years, and a lot of the sharks are actually pregnant. So the area is already a protected area. It's established under the National Ministerial Decree since 2015. But unfortunately, I think the information about treasure shark is still fairly new. Not a lot of government actually know about the presence of the sharks. And with the help of Sean Henrich and a couple of people, we finally discovered that, the area is actually a potential importance for pregnant treasure sharks. So if they keep, the practice of fishing them, we don't know what's the impact will be in the future, right? Because we cut down entirely the opportunity for the sharks to replenish their population. So if the fishing still continue, we are afraid that they will forever disappear from the Indonesia's oceans. So we've been pushing this kind of like story and narrative and doing research lots in Alor to make sure that, you know, the government interested, the industry interested, and general public like the fishermen, even you know, one of the main actors of this issue could be engaged equitably. So we're not going to tell them like stop fishing the sharks, because we know that it is also important for them economically. The meat is being consumed for the whole village, and it's very, very beneficial for them as a food source. And we want to make sure that, you know, they can still survive while providing, you know, better alternative for them. So one of the research that we, yeah.
I just want to give you a time check because I want to leave time for questions if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
About 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, it's I think it should be enough.
Awesome. Great.
Hopefully. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So I think one of the research that we did in Alor, I will go into the specifics on this project that is supported by Save Our Seas. So we do a little bit of tagging with the sharks because the fishermen, they've perfected the way they fish the sharks. This is me doing the tagging on 2021. So we do use the satellite tags to see the movement of the sharks. The sharks is alive, so we asked the fishermen, can you help us to catch the sharks? And then help them to stay in the boat for a while, and then we tag them and then we release them. Because the satellite tagging is important for us to know whether the sharks stay within Alor or they move somewhere else, right? And especially the area is already an MPA, we want to make sure that which critical habitats for the pregnant mothers, if they give birth around there or they give birth somewhere else. So we tag mostly on the pregnant sharks and female. And then the second one, we also do use the acoustic tag. So it's a little bit more internally. So this research has been approved by the ethical office in Indonesia and also in the US because I do this while I was doing my master's research. So we make a small incision on the sharks, and then we put the tag inside the peritoneal cavity, and then we, you know, put sutures and close the wound. And shortly after, we release them back to the wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the shark has that catatonic immobility. So when you put it upside down, they just kind of relax and just lay there for you. That's really amazing.
Yes.
You're like swimming with it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like the only opportunity for me to see them and have like a close interactions. So we do a little bit of kind of like recovery swimming. So you can see that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a very low. So
Wow.
you see this satellite tag, and then we have this one and below. So we do kind of like double tagging them to see between the wide range movement and also close range movement. And 100% of the sharks that we tag are survived. They're alive and well, and some of them provide very, very exciting information. And, you know, I think with the wound, this is the amazing thing about the sharks. They actually very, very fast in recovering themselves. I think, you know, unfortunately, one shark got caught 2 months after we tagged them. And the fisherman didn't know that it was the shark that we tagged. And the wound is completely healed. And he could find one acoustic tag inside the stomach. And inside the peritoneal cavity. So, you know, the wound's already healed quite quickly during that time frame. Yeah. So far we've done 15 tags with satellites, 9 with internal acoustics, and we've put underwater receivers in 8 locations. So this is the fisherman that we work with. So he's actually one of the most skilled fishers in the village, and now he already embraced the commitment to stop fishing sharks and helping us with the research, and also embracing the alternative livelihoods as a tuna fisherman. And the initial data have give us the information that, you know, they are actually staying within Alor waters across the 1 year period of research. but unfortunately still threatened by fishing activities because they're concentrated within the main fishing ground of the shark fishers. So this narrative have been pushed to the local government that, hey, like, the sharks actually quite resident on the area. So if the fishing continues, we are afraid that their decline will go forward, and we have to protect the area as soon as possible before they disappear. And the government is very welcome with this idea, and then we kind of like working together with them to improve the management opportunities and also provide the livelihoods for fishermen. So this is the highlight. I think this is a very cool animation. So this is the sharks that we tag. We've tagged, I think, around 11 sharks. So you can see that we tag is from here, and then they move quite far away to the north, and they go back here to the south. And then going around here, and this is the South Sea area where blue whales and other types of sharks could be found. So they actually move quite wide range from here.
What's the time span of all this movement? I can see it going across the top.
Yeah, it's based on days.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Days.
Yeah. So all of the tags stay by the sharks around 6 months. So all of this information is 6 months time frame from the first tagging initiation. So you can see that they quite have individualized moving pattern. And the interesting thing is that all of the movement pointing out into the area where we call as the Banda Sea, in which we think that the sharks might share kind of like the same populations. And Banda is one of the most productive fishing areas in Indonesia, and this is part of the project that is funded by Save Our Seas, because we've been receiving reports from dive centers in Banda, like, hey, we found treasure shark being landed around our diving sites, and would you be interested in checking about this? And Banda is this one small island regions in here, and we did the first investigations to see and get to know more about the status of the fisheries there. And our big question is that, are they treasure sharks from Alor? Are they share the same movement between Alor and Banda? And if so, how can we then protect both of these two different regions with two different legislations better integrated for conservation? So what we did, basically, we're talking to a bunch of people. I think this is the big part of conservation really is that, especially if you work with fisheries, that you have to get to know people and then, locate networks, and then just sharing stories, how they do the fishing, where they fish, when they fish, are they familiar with it? And we explore all the areas and villages and seas of Banda. So these are the images that we talk to a bunch of fishers around the island to see, have you seen treasure sharks? Are they found in your water and something like that? So their interactions with it. And I think part of the privilege also, the area is very, very beautiful. And we got to, go across these island chains. So it's a very clear water, beautiful landscape. Yeah. And the thing that we find about it is that we did survey across these islands. We asked people also to help us map. Okay, they said, yes, we found it, we've seen this shark before. And then we asked them, okay, where do you fish them? And we found around 16 locations that the sharks likely could be found in this area. So this is Banda. So this Rhun is one of the hotspots we see, because they could actually find them less than 1 kilometer from the shore. Fishers said that during the month of September and also October, they could find the sharks actually jumping from, only from the shore. So it's a very interesting information for us that could help us to understand more about their ecological perspective. And thankfully that, unlike people in Alor who target them as their main catch, people in Banda actually catch them accidentally. So they actually target something else. They target tuna and also small fish. And sometimes they say like catching treasure shark is a bad luck because they're big, and then they actually broke the nets of the fishers. and it's really heavy to lift them from the ocean. But most of the records that we've seen so far, actually they're quite small. So it looks like a juvenile sharks, because in in a mature size, the fishers cannot even lift them because they're so heavy. Like in the previous image, like this one, right? So you cannot potentially only lift them with 2 arms, but this one seems quite small. So we think that the juvenile sharks are predominantly present there. And the thing that we do right now is to engage the fishers. Okay, you say you hate catching treasure sharks and you don't want to catch them. And we ask them, okay, would you want to collaborate with us in the efforts of releasing them back into the waters? So right now we are working with 17 fishers, trialing these efforts. We provide them training on how to best release the sharks. And then we offer them a small incentive to replace their broken gear. So sometimes with the nets, when the shark's already in the nets, they have to cut down the sharks, right? And then they have to cut the lines and everything, and it requires costs for them to repair them after they go back to the shore. And we provide a small incentive for them to replace this gear and ensure their commitment that they will report it to us. Okay, we successfully released 1 shark. This is the photo and video, and then they report to us, and then we can pay them back with small incentive with the amount of how much they would need to repair them. So as of now, since December last year, we've successfully conducted 57 release attempts, and all of them set free. They're alive. So we are looking to continue to engage more fishers with hopefully provide a long-term solutions for them. So we working with the local government as well to ask them, okay, we cannot provide, we're not the one who will be forever giving them the incentive. There should be another role of the government or other actors to help them sustain these efforts.
Yeah.
And lastly, this is actually my last slide. So hopefully I'm still making time.
Oh, you're great. This is great.
Yeah. So we are making one story about, it's a children's story. It's called The Adventure of Nia and Nimang. And the baby treasure sharks, because there's so many baby treasure sharks in Alora. Especially, we want to change the mindset of students, because the first time we got to the island, they were like, "Oh yeah, my father catch that shark. Like I ate them every month." And it's kind of like a very similar, exclamations from other students, and we want to change their mindset that. From food source to a friend, because the shark's also a living being, and then we want to grow the empathy from the students, and children, that they should release the sharks because they're endangered. And it's been going well, and then lots of people more aware now about the sharks. While at the same time, we also provide the better opportunities for the shark fishermen. Oops. Yeah, I think that's all I have.
That's awesome.
And I would be open for any questions.
Yeah, well, it's such a holistic project. I mean, that's really amazing that you're even offering to replace fishing gear and some of the costs that's associated with it. That shows that you truly understand like what these communities go through and what they go on, and the need and the historical context that goes along with these in the cultural context with these communities.
Yes.
So that's really amazing. So
Thank you.
I wish you luck in increasing that and doing more. So I know we have a few minutes just for a few questions. You've described yourself as an early career conservationist, right? So you're just getting started in this, and it might be interesting to share how you're a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are. Any advice that you might want to give to someone that wants to follow in your footsteps and research and save sharks or rays or anything having to do with the ocean?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question. I think this is a very important one, especially for high school students or even university students who just started their degree in marine science. I got into the marine science program because of an accident. in the traditional Asian family, like you considered successful if you get into engineering degree or like being a medical doctor, you know, traditionally. Because like when I decided to go into marine science, my mother was like, "What are you gonna do with that degree? Like, will that get you any job? You know, like, will you be a fisherman, go into the sea, something like that?" And I think things are changed so much right now, and a lot of people get to be, you know, more aware that ocean conservation or marine science has wide open career opportunities. I think I didn't know this before, and when I started my marine science degree, I was so confused, like, and especially with job opportunities, right? It's really hard to find jobs back home, even though we were big, small, you know, big island nations. But I think the most important thing is that I got my opportunity to be here because I connected with the right mentors and teachers. And before I finished my degree, I got the internship opportunities to do research about manta rays in Lamakera and also in Raja Ampat. And I got, you know, that opportunity to network with people, and then people eventually inspired me, and they give me more and more opportunities. So I think, you know, as someone who anybody who would consider marine science as their kind of like choice and career, I think it's very important to at least find a mentor that will inspire you and really like believe in your capacity and give you the opportunities to grow. I think, you know, joining internships and like, I don't know, in the museum, with someone like Lance and other folks who are working in the, you know, ecology and science, I think that really opens way for you to be in this career moving forward.
Follow your passion, right? And
Exactly.
find someone that can help you wayfind into what you want to do, and help you, you know, find your passion and follow it. That's great advice.
Exactly.
And you're never too young to be a marine scientist. So for those of you that are, you know, are in a career now and you want to change, that's okay. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can end up swimming with thresher sharks. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people that I know in my network, like they did even undergrad and masters in something completely different, like, I don't know, soil science or studying about mushroom, and then did a PhD in marine science and work with sharks. So I think you can always have a point in your life that you can take a turn and then really follow what's really, you know, motivate you.
So your project seems pretty expansive with, you know, the Save Our Seas funded research with the satellite tagging and the other tagging you're doing, and working with, you know, fishers to release and tag more. But how do you envision your project and your organization, you know, Thresher Shark Indonesia, in the future? You know, if you were given that blank check to expand, what would you do? How would you do? What would you do more of?
Yeah, I think like you said, tagging is very, very expensive, and we actually haven't secured any follow-up funding for this, but hopefully soon.
If anyone's out there listening.
Maybe anybody watching this record and interested in funding us, we would be welcome with open arms. But I think with Thresher Shark Indonesia right now, we really want to first is make sure that engaging more and more young people in the area that we're working with, like you mentioned, you know, in the Alor Island, before we come there, people never pay attention about marine conservation. So there is no university program that focuses on there. Formal education is lacking. And now the people who joined us see that, you know, career in marine conservation and, you know, changing the perceptions of local communities have become one of the aspirations for them. That it's something that I wanted to do. So I think, you know, working with young people, Thresher Shark Indonesia is wanted to do more of this, so that, you know, there's a change happening within the community level, and I think also like tagging would be nice. And we actually wanted to explore one area that we have found potential cleaning station, which is in East Kalimantan. So we've seen videos from dive centers that the sharks actually visit there quite regularly for about 30 minutes in every few months. So I think it's a very interesting avenue for research, and we're actually fundraising to do this and then investigate more using camera traps and also underwater survey, and even eventually, hopefully, tagging the sharks and see, exciting informations what we could be found in there.
That's cool. I mean, it sounds like a very great thing. And the wonderful thing, I guess, about shark science is that there's so many unanswered questions, right?
Yeah.
So there's plenty of research, plenty of science still to be done.
Exactly.
Lots of ways to expand. Well, Rafid, thank you very much for joining us tonight and teaching us all about thresher sharks and the research that you're doing. I think the ocean is a greater place with your research and your organization. So thank you.
Thank you.
And for those of you listening, so please follow Rafid. Thresher Sharks Indonesia. You can look them up. Thresher. What's your website, Rafid?
Yeah, it's threshershark.id.
Threshersharks.id for Indonesia.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, Indonesia. Yeah.
Follow what they're doing. You can follow on Save Our Seas Foundation as well. There's all kinds of profiles and about your research and your project and everything too. So thank you again. Thank you, Save Our Seas Foundation, for making this possible this evening. We really do appreciate that as well. Join us next time on September 5th from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Anna Barbosa Martins will be joining us, another researcher talking about food security and the future of sharks, similar to what Rafid was kind of talking about, how communities rely upon sharks for food, and what is the nexus of that? How does that relate to the future of shark populations? What can we learn more about and help manage that dynamic? So join us then. Join us, and we'll talk more sharks and have a good time. So again, Rafid, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Save Our Seas Foundation.
Thanks, man.
Everyone, have a good night. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.